On August 15, 1947, we attained independence. Alongside, the great ancient land of Bharat was partitioned on communal lines. On the one hand, when the Congress leadership and the Muslim leadership were preparing themselves for independence and taking over the rulership, British colonialists led by Lord Mountbatten were trying to execute the India's Independence Act hurriedly. Many parts of Akhand Bharat were witnessing riots, mayhems, murders, and inhuman crimes against women. Gandhiji was taking tours in eastern parts of Bharat. The second Sarsangh Chalak of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, Shri Golwalkar Gurji, was traveling in the western part, which constitute Pakistan now. RSS was running many refugee camps. Muslim League leaders were busy not just preparing for Pakistan, but also instigating communal frenzy mobs on the ground. A book by researcher and author Shri Prashant Pol tried to put together developments of this fortnight of August 1947 in his book, which is one of the best sellers, called Wo 15 Din, which is translated as Those 15 Days. This year, Organiser is taking you through the developments of those 15 days, going through the most happening 15 days towards Bharat's independence alongside the communal partition will provide new insights to the viewers and inspire them to take up research on various aspects of conversations, communications and negotiations, as well as the kind of communal frenzy things happening on the ground about India's independence and the great partition of this land. Those 15 days, August 14th, 1947. Calcutta, Thursday. Even though the morning air was soothing and pleasant, it was not so in the Baliaghat area. A strange kind of sting filled the air because of the mud spread everywhere. Gandhiji was out on his morning walk. He noticed a few houses nearby standing in a broken, dilapidated and burnt condition. The accompanying workers told him that Muslim fanatics had burned these houses of Hindus in the recent riots. Gandhiji halted. He looked at these houses with a sad look and moved on. Now, Suravardi was not accompanying him because he could not summon the courage to sleep the previous night at Haidari Manzil. Now, he had to come at 11 o'clock in the morning. A worker told him, as instructed by Gandhiji, joint marches of Hindus and Muslims are being taken out in entire Calcutta city. There was no news of any riot in Calcutta yesterday. In Karachi, it was 9 o'clock in the morning. There was quite a buzz in the simplistic but grand assembly hall. Pakistan was to come into existence formally within the next few minutes. A variety of people had gathered in the auditorium shaped like a conch. There were leaders from their respective fields. They comprised the Pathans, Afridis, Wazirs, Mehsoods, Punjabis, Balochis, Sindhis, and even Bengalis. These Bengalis, living 1500 miles away, looked quite different from others. Lord Mountbatten was in his full navy uniform. He was to deliver the first speech. Speech was written by John Christie. Mountbatten started speaking with emphasis on each and every word. And I quote, "Pakistan's emergence is a historic event. History moves forward sometimes slowly like an iceberg and sometimes swiftly like a forceful stream of water. We are removing the obstacles in the flow and we are throwing ourselves in the momentum of these incidents. Now there is no looking back. We now just have to look forward. Unquote. Looking at the stoic and straight-faced Jinnah, Mountbatten added, I want to thank Mr. Jinnah at this occasion. I'm sure that we will continue to have cordial relations even in future because of affinity and friendship between us. Jinnah was not going to speak for long on this occasion. He rose to give his brief speech. He wore a shiny and bright sherwani buttoned up to the neck, the eyeglass only on one eye and that too placed on the nose. And Jinnah started speaking. And quote, the feeling of amity between Britain and its colonies is still alive even as they are being separated. I solemnly promise that our pious Islam, which is in existence for 13 centuries, will show tolerance for all other religions. Pakistan will never lag in building friendly relations with our neighbors and other countries of the world. After this brief speech, he was to take oath as the first Governor General of Pakistan. That he did, and a nation named Pakistan came into existence officially. Now the next step was that of a procession. The procession was to be held in a decorated open Rolls-Royce car from the Assembly House to the Governor's house, which now acted as Jinnah's residence. A distance of only 3 miles. A sea of people standing on both sides. Jinnah and Lord Mountbatten sat in the back seat of the car. A 21 cannon salute was given and the car started moving slowly. After crossing some distance, the car attained the speed of a briskly walking person. Jinnah and Mountbatten feared that someone could throw a bomb on them. Both sides of the road were heavily crowded. Thousands of people were shouting slogans hailing Jinnah and Pakistan. Police and soldiers stood along the route at regular intervals. This distance of 3 miles was covered in approximately 45 minutes. After the cars had been parked in the porch of the Governor's house, Jinnah smiled a little bit, showing signs of relaxation on his otherwise stern face, pressed his bony hand on Mountbatten's knee and said, Inshallah, I could bring you back alive. Mountbatten was dumbfounded. Who brought back alive whom? He said to himself, Scoundrel, you have come back alive because of me. Mountbatten thought. Srinagar. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. The main post office in the city. Officers at the GPO were hoisting the Pakistani flag. 2 Swayamsevaks stood observing this. They immediately asked the postmaster, how can you put up Pakistan's flag? The Maharaja has not yet agreed to merger of Kashmir with Pakistan. The Muslim postmaster replied calmly, Srinagar post office falls under the Sialkot circle and Sialkot has become part of Pakistan, so we have hoisted Pakistan's flag. Both the RSS Swayamsevaks conveyed this to Jammu and Kashmir's Pranta Sangachalak of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, Premchand Dograji, who in turn conveyed this to a responsible officer in Maharaja's office and 17-15 Swayamsevaks inside the GPO. This Swayamsevak convenes the postmaster and Pakistan's flag comes down within just 45 minutes. Back in Karachi, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Both Lord Mountbatten and Lady Mountbatten were ready to leave for Delhi in their ceremonial dresses they had worn in the morning. Both of them looked pleased. They were scheduled to take part in the ceremony of India's transfer of power that night. Quaid-e-Azam Jinnah and his sister Fatima bid farewell to the couple. In a way, the first state guest of newly created Pakistan, the Governor General of India, Lord and Lady Mountbatten, were taking leave of Jinnah. Calcutta Airport. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The special plane carrying Chakrabarti Rajagopalachari, who had been appointed governor of West Bengal or divided Bengal, was scheduled to arrive from Delhi. Rajaji was to be sworn in that night itself. Some Congress workers had gathered at the airport, but they did not show any excitement. There was opposition to Rajaji in Bengal. Subhash Babu's brother and one of the big leaders of Bengal, Sarath Chandra Bose, had already resigned in protest against Rajaji's appointment in Bengal. Finally, some officials and employees of the governor's house took Rajaji to the governor's house in a special car meant for him. In Singapore, the India's Independence Day Celebration Committee had chalked out a special plan along with the Malayan Airways to celebrate the occasion next day. A special aircraft of Malayan Airways was to fly on Waterloo Street in Padang, and that too exactly at the time when the national tricolour was to be hoisted there. Soldiers and officers belonging to Subhash Babu's Indian National Army, Azad Hind Fauj, women soldiers of Rani Jhansi Regiment, and members of the Bal Sena were to be ferried in this plane. All of them were to offer flowers from their aeroplane on this occasion of the flag hoisting ceremony. However, the Civil Aviation Department of Singapore objected to this special event as soon as INA's name cropped up and denied permission for the flight. Now, the Indian Independence Day Celebration Committee was forced to celebrate the Independence Day in a different manner the next day. Back in Karachi, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A big mansion in Karachi, a family connected with Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. 2 women in this house were Sevikas of the Rashtra Sevika Samiti. The program of Ekatrikaran, gathering, was organized on the rooftop of this mansion. Sevikas from Karachi's Hindu majority areas were continuing to arrive. The procession of Quaid-e-Azam Jinnah and Lord Mountbatten in the morning had long been over. Therefore, there was not much of crowd on the road. Even though it was Thursday, schools, colleges, etc. had been closed on the occasion of Pakistan's Independence Day. The terrace was large enough to accommodate at least 700-800 Sevikas. Now there was no room left to sit. Some Sevikas had to stand behind. The atmosphere was grave but enthusiastic. The Shakha took place, the flag was hoisted. The song that lifts the spirit and gives confidence was sung. Then Mausiji started to recite the pledge in her solemn and calm voice. All the Sevikas repeated the pledge with the same resolve and seriousness. This pledge appeals to the power of resolve of mind. Some time was reserved for questions and answers. Young Sevika asked, "Our chastity is in danger. What should we do? Where should we go?" Mausiji told her in a supportive voice, "Come to Hindustan howsoever it is possible. Things have been arranged for you in Mumbai and elsewhere. Do not worry. We are all a family. We will overcome this situation as well." Finally, in her brief concluding speech, Mausiji said, "Be courageous, have patience, protect your chastity, have complete trust in our organization, continue the mission to serve our motherland in these trying times. We will overcome these trying times on the strength of our organization." On hearing Mausiji's soothing words, a wave of confidence built up in the minds of the Sevikas in Sindh. Except for cheering slogans for Jinnah and Mountbatten during the procession at Karachi, not much enthusiasm was perceptible in overall Pakistan. Pakistani green flags with crescent and star could be seen at many places, but only in West Pakistan. Pakistani flags were nowhere on the soil of East Pakistan. It happened so, perhaps because it was the end of Ramzan. However, it was certain that many people thought that a strong nation to lead the Islamic world had risen in the form of Pakistan. Back in Calcutta, Billiaghat area, it was time for the evening prayer for Gandhiji. It was to be the last evening prayer in British-ruled India. Gandhiji had put forward several issues in his evening prayers so far, ranging from his favorite yarn spinning to perils of the nuclear bomb, the movement of ball in the body, cleaning of toilets, benefits of abstinence, teachings of Bhagavad Gita, the principle of non-violence, and so on and so forth. Everyone was curious about what Gandhiji would talk on the eve of independence. That was why that day's evening prayer was taking place in the public garden of Billiaghat. Gandhiji started speaking with poise in front of crowd of 10,000. Said, "First of all, congratulations to you all. It is very nice that you have ended differences between Hindus and Muslims in Calcutta. Of course, I hope, and this is not a temporary phase, and you will continue to live in such harmony. From tomorrow, we will be free from slavery under the British. However, with it, our country will also be split into two from tonight. Hence, tomorrow will be as much of joy as of sorrow. Our responsibility will grow after independence. The sense and harmony in Calcutta city stays intact, then our country will survive from a great disaster. Can those newly attained freedom of ours survive if flames of communal enmity engulf our country?" he asked. He continued, "I am very sorry to say that personally, tomorrow's Independence Day cannot please me. To all my followers, I would like to say to go on a 24-hour fast, spend time in prayers and spin yarn on charkha. This will save your country." In Delhi, Congress headquarters, it was about 6 o'clock in the evening. It was still raining. The press statement from the National President of Congress was on way for publicity. In it, President Acharya J.B. Kripalani had said, "Today is a sad day. Our beloved mother is being divided, but we'll come out of this now. We'll create a new India." On the other hand, about 6 o'clock in the evening, Dr. Rajendra Prasad's Bangalore. Most of the ministers of Nehru's cabinet except Nehru were present. Defense Minister Baldev Singh had not reached yet because he was on tour of Punjab, but was expected to arrive soon. A yajna was being performed in the premises of the bungalow to portend bright future for independent India. Priests well versed in Vedic knowledge were officiating the yajna. Mantras were being chanted in pure and crystal clear Sanskrit. It was raining outside in slow rhythm. The atmosphere was filled with pleasant and pious emotions. All the ministers were expected to go to the ceremony of transfer of power in the State Council building after having refreshments on completion of the yajna. About 10 o'clock at night, it was still raining outside. All members of the Constituent Assembly, ministers, senior officials were arriving one by one in the State Council building. Thousands of people stood waiting outside the oval-shaped auditorium, least bothered about the rain. Ministers like Vallabhbhai Patel, Azad, Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, Dr. Ambedkar, Baldev Singh, Jawaharlal Nehru himself, Rajkumari Amrut Kaur were arriving one after another, and people's enthusiasm was at its peak. They were cheering and shouting slogans in their favorite minister's name, besides raising slogans like Vande Mataram, Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. Chairman of the House, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, was seated on a high chair in the hall. On his left, in the lower side, sat Lord Mountbatten in full military attire. Nehru, wearing a white chuddar, a newly stitched achkan, a beautiful jacket with a rose on it. Dr. Rajendra Prasad began the proceedings of the meeting. He mentioned names of known and unknown soldiers and freedom fighters who had suffered for the freedom of the country and even faced death. He made a special mention of Gandhiji at the end of his speech. Guru for all of us, and the lighthouse which guides us is busy in establishing peace thousands of miles away from us. Then Nehru got up to speak. The rose in the buttonhole of his cotton jacket looked fresh even at midnight. He spoke calmly and slowly. Many years ago, we had made a tryst with destiny. Today, we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly and in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. We take the pledge of dedication to the service of India. Nehru's speech was adorned with flowery words, each more brilliant than other. He had spent a lot of time on preparing the speech. Exactly at 12 o'clock midnight, one of the members sitting in the house blew the conch and he had brought with him. All were thrilled at the sound of the conch. New history was unfolding. New era was starting. Spirits of many revolutionaries in heaven must have been satisfied at this sight. At last, India had become independent. Still it was raining heavily. Water had accumulated in old Delhi areas like Daryaganj and under in Minto Bridge. In the midst of this rain, few pracharaks and prominent Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh workers in Delhi were gathered together in a small RSS office at E42 Kamla Nagar. There were many issues on the hand, particularly those pertaining to the refugees coming from Punjab and Sindh. Arrangements for their stay had to be made. It was reported that some Muslim groups intended to create disturbances, thus they had to be watched. Many of them had not slept for many nights. Next, many nights were going to be full of such challenges. Calcutta Governor's House. It was about 1 o'clock after midnight. While power was changing hands in Delhi, a new chapter was being written, the old British capital, Calcutta. A small ceremony to swear in Chakravarti Rajagopalachari was about to begin in the governor's house. It was literally very small. The outgoing governor, Sir Frederick Burrows, was handing over his charge to Rajagopalachari. A program of hardly 10-15 minutes had been planned. Rajaji took oaths in English, but the newly appointed Chief Minister, Dr. Praful Chandra Ghosh, and his ministerial colleagues took oaths in Bangla. A huge crowd was gathered outside to witness this program. It was anyhow the night of independence. Moreover, the governor's house had been thrown open to the public. Therefore, a huge crowd had gathered even at the midnight. People were chanting slogans in high-pitched voices. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Gandhiji Zindabad. Everyone was getting goosebumps on hearing the loud chants of Vande Mataram in the same governor's house that was bitterly antagonistic to all Indians, especially the revolutionaries, giving that favorite slogan of Vande Mataram. And as Rajaji took charge of the governor's post, the crowd became unruly. The people could not decide what to do and what not to do. In the midst of this fury, the crowd snatched and decamped with expensive items like silver cutlery, etc. in the governor's house, shouting slogans like Mahatma Gandhi Zindabad. Even before the sun rose of independent India, the first public event in the country ended on such a negative note. This was August 14th, 1947.